seem to be very satisfied.
Well, I am. Aren't you?
No.
That's the silliest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. I mean, you have got a fine job. You've got a fine girl, and you, my friend, are lost in a fine forest. What more could you want?
I don't know, but something seems wrong, you know? Especially with Jane and me, and that just makes everything seem wrong. Look how I postponed getting married. I can't even get myself to the altar.
Well, I don't know what could be wrong. She is smart, she is attractive, she is fit, and she fits smack into that niche of your life. Besides, she loves you, Pally, in just the proper amount.
Yeah, what's the proper amount?
Enough to make you happy, but not enough to embarrass you in front of your friends.
I know. It seems ideal, doesn't it? But why don't I see it? 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 Why don't I see it?
For this #LovePodcast presentation, names, voices, and faces have been changed, but the story is true. This is part 3 of the tale of Paul and Jamie. We take up this saga exactly where we left it. The month, July, the year 2002. Paul was settling into a new role.
Just a couple days after Jamie and my trip to the brewery to see King Lear, I was training for my first waiting gig. It was at this really cute, small, charming, family-owned Italian restaurant in Simi Valley. And I showed up, my first day, I'm nervous. I've never waited tables before. And the owner of the place, Larry, is taking me on a tour of the restaurant, introducing me to people that worked there. And I noticed that one of the waitresses in particular was very good looking. She was very cute. And toward the end of our little tour, he tells me he's going to introduce me to the girl who's going to be training me this evening. And yes, I lucked out. It was the cute girl. Her name was Lizzie, and she was so charming, so sweet, so disarming. I felt very comfortable around her, so that was awesome because it made my training day that much easier. So at the end of the night, the restaurant's closed, all the guests were gone, and Lizzie was training me, teaching me how to do certain side work in the back, and we were cleaning the coffee machine and the iced tea maker. And she's kind of like looking at me out of the corner of her eye, giving me these sideways glances. Then finally she says,
I know who you are.
What do you mean?
I've seen you in shows. I'm in the theater department at Moore Park. I'm a dancer.
Oh, yeah, I totally thought you looked familiar. I couldn't figure out.
Well, I just did West Side Story with, you probably know Benny Day and Devin and Jamie.
Yeah. I totally saw it. Mm-hmm. I loved it. It was great. You all did a really great job. It was so good.
Thank you. Well, I think you're great. You're very good. Very, very, very talented.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, you are welcome very much.
A couple of days pass by, and I'm heading into work for my next shift. And I was a little bit early, so I was just hanging out like in the lobby area, getting my apron ready. We weren't open for dinner yet, so I was checking my server book to make sure it was all in order, all nervous and stuff. And I noticed that girls at the hostess stand were kind of like giggling and gossiping. And I wanted to know what was going on, so I went over.
Hi, Paul!
Hey, guys. What's going on?
We have a secret, but
we're not supposed to tell you.
Yeah, we're not supposed to tell you.
Well, I'm sorry, but now you gotta tell me because now I know you know something.
Should we tell him?
No.
Yes?
I think we should.
We should tell him.
Okay.
What?
Well, you know Lizzie.
Of course.
She totally thinks you're cute.
Yeah, she totally likes you.
Really?
Yes.
And you should ask her out.
You totally should.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Maybe I will.
Yay! But don't tell her we told you anything.
So, by the end of that night, I did ask her out, and she said yes. And that was the start of something kind of surreal. Lizzie and I fell so hard, so fast for each other. It was crazy. She was just so cute and so sweet and so caring. Like she was very supportive. We were both into theater arts, and it was literally like a week between, hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you, and I want to spend all of my free time with you. Like, it was that much of a perfect fit.
Oh, I actually don't remember when I found out about Paul and Lizzie, but I did vaguely know her from dance class because we took the same jazz class. But I knew her as the sweet, pretty girl with short hair that wore a lot of hair clips. And that's pretty much all I knew. And she had a really high voice, like abnormally high. Like, hi everyone, like you could hear her coming down the hall. But she seemed very nice. Just a lot of hair clips.
As always, Paul and Jamie could rely on the theater to draw them back together. But now, it was a little awkward.
So the performances finally came around for the summer theater program, and Lizzie came with me to see the performance of The Rhymers of Eldritch, in which Jamie was the star. And so that was kind of weird, sitting next to Lizzie watching this show in the black box where Jamie's the star. And but at the same time, like, I was so into my brand new relationship with Lizzie that my old feelings for Jamie didn't affect my date with Lizzie at all.
I did go see Paul in Closer. He was the star. I kind of have a memory of going by myself. So I was sitting in the black box theater, and the show started, and I was totally captivated. So impressed. I was just beside myself. I was like, this guy is phenomenal. And I remember getting back to my car and texting him something like, you should win an Oscar. You're amazing. That was the best theatrical performance I've ever seen. And I have never forgotten it. He was just so good.
One night after a performance of Closer, Lizzie and I were leaving. Lizzie came to see every show. And I got a text message, and I look at it, and it's Jamie, just being so sweet and complimentary about my performance. But here I was now with Lizzie getting in the car. I was like, Jamie, what? Why you gotta do that? No. Clear the text into the pocket, forget it. And I remember so clearly, Lizzie was like,
Who's that, babe?
and I said, a friend. In the winter of that year, the college was putting on a production of the musical Brigadoon on the main stage. It was a big deal. And Lizzie really wanted to audition and really wanted me to audition with her. But it was a big time commitment, so I was kind of like wavering on it. But at the same time, it would be awesome to do a show with Lizzie, and we'd be there together, so it might be fun. But I kind of pulled a diva card. I'll admit it. I kind of did. I said, you know what? I'll audition, and if I get the lead, I'll do it. And then I got the lead. Lizzie got cast too. Not as my romantic interest, the female lead, Fiona, but as her sister. So it's kind of a bummer that she wasn't my leading lady, but she'd still be there as, kind of a main part.
Fine couple of game hunters we are. We come all the way over here from New York, and the first night out, we get lost.
Paul got the lead in Brigadoon, and I was really excited to go see him, and I went with Devin. And Devin didn't really want to go. He was like,
This is going to be so stupid.
It's not going to be stupid. It's music theater. Just go with me. So we went, and I was so excited watching Paul sing these songs and be the star on the main stage. And he was so funny, and I was laughing hysterically, getting such a kick out of it. And like half an hour into it, I look over at Devin like, isn't this great? And he's like glaring at me, just look of death, doom and gloom. And he's like,
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't aware this was a comedy.
and I was like, oh, okay. Well, it's not a comedy. I'm just enjoying it. And every time Paul would say something and I would laugh, Mr. Doom and Gloom.
Oh, was that really that funny? Okay.
Super jelly. He was very, very jealous.
When it came time for the performances of Brigadoon, Lizzie and I had just been dating for about 3 months, and everything up to that point had just been perfect. We were in love. And it's crazy thinking back on it, but her character in Brigadoon was supposed to be getting married. So one of her costumes was a wedding dress. And I'd be lying if I said the thought of proposing to her, like at the end of the run of the show or whatever, didn't cross my mind. But I knew that this was all still very new and this relationship was very young. But I was very excited to see where it would go.
As 2002 drew to a close, Paul made a decision that would change everything.
For a couple of years, one of the coaches of the Moore Park forensics team, Ronald Petrino, had been trying to recruit me to the speech and debate team. Not because I'm good at debate or because I'm smart, because I'm not really either, but because part of the speech and debate tournaments was like an acting competition. I'll try to explain it really quick. The organization is called Forensics, and no, it doesn't deal with dead bodies. It's speech and debate is how it's more commonly known. And there are like 3 different categories. There's debate, which is, a bunch of smart people in a room talking about politics and stuff. There's speeches, platform speeches, which are like, your formal, informative, or persuasive speeches, that kind of thing. And then the 3rd category is interpretation, or interp. And that's basically standing in front of a room with a little book in your hands, acting out. It's like a 10-minute one-man show. And there's different subcategories of this, like drama, prose, poetry. It's basically an acting competition. And the way speech tournaments work is it's very similar to a track meet where you bring your team of different, competitors that compete in different events, and based on where they place, your team gets an overall ranking, but the individuals also get, their own rankings. One of Ronald's tactics or approaches when recruiting me to the team was he told me that speech would really help me with my on-camera acting. And of course, I'm competitive by nature, so I don't know why I chose this point in my life, but I decided to join the team. So Ronald and Joy, the coaches, they were very excited to have me on, and right before winter break, I had an appointment with Ronald in his office to go over the different events and to kind of get an idea of what I would be competing with. So I was in Ronald's office, and he was showing me different potential drama and prose pieces that would be my first 2 events. And he said he wanted me to be in the team's Reader's Theater, but that doesn't get started till like towards the end of the season. But for my 4th event, he thought I might want to do a duo, which is like a 2-person scene. And I said, yeah, that sounds really fun.
Another student just joined the team, and I think you 2 would work well together. You might know her, actually. Jamie Cronin? Jamie Cronin? Jamie Cronin?
We have another student joining class today.
To be paired up with a high school student?
Why do I see it? Why do I see it?
I don't know if my jaw dropped or if my heart stopped, but I totally entered this just shell shock mindset. I had no idea Jamie was going to be joining the team, and it was like this exact deja vu almost of when, a little over 2 years ago, Kathy had paired me up with Jamie in intermediate acting.
I had been hearing about speech and debate. It was just called speech because I was not so interested in the whole debate part of it. Like, why? We're just going to stand in a room in suits and fight? No, not interested. And then after West Side Story, I was taking dance classes and a random theater history class here and there. And I was kind of like, okay, well, what now? My big show is over. I have nothing to do. And one of the speech coaches. His name was Ronald, and he was like, Jamie, I would love to recruit you to be on the speech team. I think you'd be really great. You'd be such an asset to the team. It's competitive. We go around and we compete. We win these trophies, and then we go to nationals, and it's just a really great bonding experience. He totally sold it to me. So I went to Devin, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to do speech. And he was like,
Are you serious? You're going to be one of those people.
And I was like, you know what? Just stop being so judgy for a minute. This is going to be fun. This is going to be good for me, and I'm going to do it.
It was so out of the blue and unexpected, but at the same time, I was just like, of course. Yeah, of course. Rest assured, Ronald, Jamie and I will work very well together.
As Paul and Jamie work together once again, they slip right back into a familiar groove.
Our duo was from a play called The Penguin Blues.
It was about Jamie was playing a nun in rehab who got paired up with a loudmouth radio personality, myself, who's very crass and kind of brings her out of her shell and helps her realize, as hard as it may be, that she, a nun, is an alcoholic. And right out the gate, we just start killing it with our duo. First tournament, first place. Second tournament, first place.
And we just got rave reviews. All the judges were like, you guys totally rock. You work so well together. And we were like, well, yeah. Do you know who we are? We've worked together before. So we were pumped, and we'd like get together to practice all the time. Meanwhile, Lizzie and Devin were like, this is stupid. And Devin was like,
This is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm never going to see you.
little bit of friction.
Due to all the speech practices and tournaments and everything, Jamie and I were spending a lot of time together. And as a result of that, we really grew. We were the closest we've ever been as far as, our friendship went. And Lizzie knew that Jamie and I had been friends for years. So I don't exactly know if she was jealous of Jamie at all. But if she was, Lizzie was the kind of person that would never do anything to upset anyone purposely or stir the pot or rock the boat. So if she was feeling jealous of Jamie, she definitely never said anything to me about it.
During our foray into speech, I was a barista at Starbucks. I had been for a while now, but I was working at the one in Simi Valley.
She was working at the Starbucks closest to my parents' house. And every time I had, some time to kill or whatever, I'd go spend an hour or two at Starbucks doing some work. And if she was working, that was cool. I'd get to see her there. And
he would come in, he'd order a drink, caramel macchiato usually. And I would usually write him some sort of little note on the sleeve that goes over the cup, so you don't burn your hand. And then he'd go enjoy his coffee at this little table. And I had to go around the store doing these menial tasks, like cleaning off the stains on the counter and refilling the cream and sugars and sweeping. So after a couple times of coming, he caught on to this. And so he'd order his caramel macchiato, and he'd grab a stack of napkins, and he'd sit down at the table and slowly and methodically rip up the napkins into little tiny pieces, and then one by one, he would throw them on the floor. Not throw them, really, as much as let them float to the floor slowly. And I was like, what are you doing? So I'd come over, and I'd sweep up the little napkin. I'd go back to my task. And then 2 seconds later, there's more trash on the floor. And I was like, oh, this is cute. This is really cute. He's throwing trash on the floor. That's pretty cute. Around that same time, I was really into this singer called Liz Calloway. And on this CD, there was a song called My Heart Is So Full of You. And I don't know why, but it made me think of Paul. And it's not like I was like, oh, I'm so in love with him and I just am longing for him. Nothing like that. But I just wanted him to hear this song because I knew he was a romantic at heart. So one day when he came to visit, I said, hey, Paul, you got to listen to this. There was also a song called Meadowlark which is one of my absolute favorite songs. And I was like, this song, I've known it since I was 9 years old. It's an epic tale set to music. It's gorgeous. Listen to it.
And so, of course, naturally, these two songs become my new favorite, Meadowlark especially. And we'll have to talk about that one later.
As the final competitions neared, they started work on their fourth and final event and took on a new partner.
We're nearing the culmination of the season, and state championships is coming up. And the state tournament is a really great time to unveil your team's readers' theater pieces.
So part of the speech competition, you have your individual piece, your duo, and then what's called a readers' theater, which is like a group piece.
Jamie, myself, and our friend Katie would be the third member of our readers' theater team.
My name is Katie Ashley Medina, and I have had the pleasure of knowing Paul and Jamie for many, many years now.
And Katie was part of our group, and we all became just the best of friends.
And our reader theater was called The Crowded Closet, and it was about schizophrenia and how the disease affects the family and friends of those afflicted. And we had a lot of funny scenes, and then there were some very disturbing scenes.
I played several different characters, as did Paul and Katie, and we had some songs set to it. There were stools involved. We all wore beige. It was awesome.
And with all of our events, we had to do coaching sessions with Ronald and or Joy pretty much every day. I mean, Monday through Friday we were there, and then sometimes even on the weekends we would go in, especially for our readers' theater. I kind of felt like the third wheel sometimes because Paul and Jamie just had this, they always just had this connection that was different from anybody else. You had to be blind not to see it. And it was interesting to be the third member of this team, because I really kind of got an inside scoop, inside track on their relationship.
So in March of 2003, we were getting close to the state championships tournament, which was in Costa Mesa that year.
Big day is coming. It's state. This is like the big competition before nationals.
And it was exciting. We were spending 5 or 6 days at the Hilton, I think a day or two to prep beforehand, and then the tournament itself was 4 days long. Lizzie wasn't exactly thrilled that I'd be away for almost a week.
So everybody's on edge. Devin, he doesn't want me to go because, we have to go to Costa Mesa. We got to all stay over in a hotel. He's not going to be there. And also, my parents didn't want me to go because they were like, wait a minute. You're staying over in a hotel with college kids. Will there be chaperones? And I'm like, yes, this is all very professional. There will be chaperones.
The team was settling into the hotel, readying themselves for state championships, and working out last-minute kinks before the tournament began.
It was like a night or two before the tournament started. The coaches had asked us to each spend an hour or two, working on polishing up our event and our different pieces.
So Paul and I were like, okay, we should go over our duo. So we went into the hallway of the hotel.
We were both sitting with our backs against the wall rehearsing our duo.
And we started going over our stuff. And
the duo gets pretty intense toward the end. My character basically just prods and pokes at her character till she finally breaks down and admits that she's an alcoholic. And while Jamie and I were sitting there doing it, during this run, I could tell she was getting very intense, very emotionally into it.
Don't know how this whole thing broke down, but we stopped practicing.
At one point, she just broke down and started crying. I put my arm around her and I said, Are you okay? What's going on?
And then it just got very emotional. I don't know why. I started crying. I think I said I love you.
And through her tears, she just said, I love you, Paul. And I said, I love you too. She kind of cried for a little longer and settled down, calmed herself down.
And the carpet was this atrocious yellow, maroon, green, never-ending sea of vomit-colored pattern. And I remember staring at that, just thinking, why am I feeling this way? I'm mad. I'm really mad now because this is not right. And look at that carpet.
And we just kind of sat there in silence for a while and left it at that. At some point, I remember I was like, okay, well, have a good night. And I went back to my room, and it was just the start of a really confusing week.
I remember one night, Paul was just sitting out on his balcony, and I went out to sit with him. I could just tell something was wrong with him. And he just poured out his feelings for Jamie to me. And even though I could tell, I'm a smart girl, I can see these things. Just to hear how much he cared for her and how much it just broke him that there just seemed like there was nothing he could do.
After this hallway scene, I was just really screwed up because I knew in my heart that I loved Jamie and I wanted to be with her. But at the same time, I was really in love with Lizzie, and I thought that she and I had a big, long future together. And of course, Jamie and Devin are still together. That hasn't changed. So, I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to feel. I was very confused.
It was hard. I mean, we stayed up talking for quite a while that night, and I just remember, I was just trying to let him know that, hey, Paul, things are going to happen in due time. If they're meant to be, they're meant to be. And I know that's an old cliche, but I knew that they were meant to be together. Somehow, someday, it was just destined to happen.
So it was a crazy, fun, awesome week there. We all just had so much fun at the tournament, and nothing else really happened that was notable between Jamie and I. It was just it was a fun week at state.
The competition itself garnered mixed results.
And at the end of the week, we all did all right. Jamie had a couple of medals, Katie won a couple, I won a couple, but our Readers Theater didn't make it to the final round, so I was bummed. And Jamie and my duo didn't even break into semifinals. So we all obviously had some work to do and some stuff to figure out.
Back at home, focus quickly shifted to the future and the 5-row pie national competition.
Getting back from state, we all kind of had to refocus our energy and kind of pull it together for nationals. Nationals was coming up. It was going to be in Portland, Oregon that year.
I was jazzed. I was really, really excited for nationals. Like, it was the biggest thing in my life. I was like, this is awesome. I'm going to win as many golds as I possibly can. And we were going to Portland. Like, we get to go on a plane, and like the whole entire team gets to stay in a hotel together. How cool is this? I'm 19 years old, and I get to go do this awesome competition with my friends.
Nationals were still 3 weeks away, so we had time to, work on our pieces.
And, we still had a lot of work to do.
We were really buckling down and practicing like every other night, late into the evening at the college with Ronald and Joy. And Katie and Paul and I were getting our stool movements down, and we were getting our tweed pants ready to go. Make no mistake, we were ready.
I was really looking forward to seeing what was going to happen when we got to nationals. I knew it was going to be a blast. I knew we were going to have the best time. And I also knew that things were gonna have to come to a head between Paul and Jamie.
You know, it was 10 days. It was going to be 10 days in Portland with the team and Jamie.
And I wasn't really thinking about the hallway conversation that I had with Paul. It was kind of like we entered this weird Twilight Zone bubble that night, and then I was out of it, and I was fine. I don't even know.
So I was looking ahead with enthusiasm and optimism, with still just this big shroud of mystery around how things were going to work out.
I was wondering what was going to happen. What was going to happen next? What craziness was going to transpire while we were up in the Great Northwest? And let me tell you, it was interesting.
Portland, Oregon is a city known for oddities and strange occurrences. How would 10 days in the city affect the course of this journey? We'll find out next time when this memoir is continued. #Love the Tale of Paul and Jamie, Part 3 was produced by Shovel Kitty Media and featured the vocal talents of Jennifer Maletto, Rowena Villanueva, Lauren Murada, Genevieve Hutchison, Eddie Kay, and Jason Morton, with interviews from Katie, Paul, and Jamie. I'm Morgan Freeman, as played by Tyler Cole.
I try to say goodbye and I choke. I try to walk away and I stumble. Though I try to hide it, it's clear. My world crumbles when you are not there. Goodbye and I choke. I try to walk away.
Review #Love on iTunes and I'll read your name in the credits of a future episode. It's easy. Just ask. Pam Kelly, Meryl Milke, Peyton Loftus, Jules NSD, Alexis Loffer, and Dan Franklin.
Join the conversation and access exclusive bonus media at facebook.com/#LovePodcast and find archives of every past episode, ramble, and roundtable at www.#LovePodcast.com.
Wait for that airplane to go by while I drink some of this water.